I would like to review the process for finding the equation of a line by hand using the y equals mx plus b form, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So the first thing we did was to draw a triangle using two random locations on our line. I'm just going to take two locations. Let's say that spot. Kind of hard to draw it on this, but there we go. Two locations. I draw the triangle as best I can without a ruler. The general equation for slope is m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. We're going to read our values from the graph. For example, you take the location up here as your y sub 2, estimating as best you can. I would say that's about 47. We don't need to worry about the units at this point. And then down here, actually the blue part I just drew is a little high, so if I lower the blue part a little bit to line up with that bottom part of the triangle, that's at about, let's say, 16 units. And then x sub 2 is pretty much right on the 7-second mark, but we can call that 7.0 to get 2 sig figs out of that, because it's right on the 7. And then I picked this one. Once again, that's right on the 1.0 if you line it up with the actual triangle. So my slope here is 31 divided by 6.0. That's 2 sig figs. So if you do the math there, I get an answer of 5.2. The units would be meters per second, but we can ignore that for the time being. 5.2 would be the slope, meters per second. The y-intercept is where the line intersects the y-axis, and it's right down in here at about, say, 12. B is roughly 12. That's the best you can do once again with sig figs. So the answer for this problem should have been, or is, y equals 5.2x plus 12. There can be some slight variation depending on how you read the graph, or how, if you're using a ruler or doing it freehand like I am, but you should have an answer close to that. This is the third problem from the worksheet. I'll draw the triangle as best I can. Go down, go over, and the slope is going to be y sub 2, which in this case is about 2.1 minus y sub 1, which is about 0.7, over x sub 2, which is 4.0, minus x sub 1, which is 0. So the slope here, if you subtract the top two numbers, you'll get a 2 sig fig number divided by 2 sig fig number. You're going to get 1.4 divided by 4.0, and that really should be negative. The answer is negative 0.35. The y-intercept here is, like I said, around 2.1. So the equation is y equals negative 0.35x plus 2.1. So here's number 4 from the worksheet. You may want to try it yourself before I show you the solution and see if your solution is the same as mine. Once again, I try to draw my triangle as big as possible. So I start down here, That's going to be my run. There's my rise. So there's my 2 points. So my slope will be y sub 2, which the high spot in my triangle is right about there. That's at about, say, 11 minus, and here's maybe the little difficult part here in this one. Let's see, it's about -7, because every 2 squares is 5 units. So minus -7, that's tricky. The run is about 10.0, or 10.0 minus 0. So I have a slope of 11 minus -7 is 18 divided by 10. So the slope is 1.8. And the y-intercept there is about -7. So the equation would be, well, b is -7. It's kind of hard to say. It's -7.0. So 1 sig fig there is fine. So y equals 1.8x minus 7. Here's problem number 5 from the worksheet. This line goes to the origin, so b is going to be 0. I'll go over that again in a second, but if I draw a triangle, let me get my marker here and start down here. Alright, so my slope is actually I'm at about 240 minus 0 over essentially 3.0 minus 0. So the slope comes out to be 80. And that can be 2 sig figs, so if you put a line over the 0, that makes that 2 sig figs. So the equation in b is equal to 0, so y equals 80x. You could say plus 0 or just leave it as y equals 80x. Simplified. You're good. Problem number 6 here is in the category of it's so easy it's hard. This is a horizontal line, so horizontal lines have a slope of 0. You really shouldn't say they have no slope, but the slope here would be 0. So when you plug into y equals mx plus b, the mx part will be 0, so you won't even write that. So the equation of a horizontal line is always going to be y equals whatever value the line is at, and it's at -7.0. -7.0, that's the y-intercept. And you can go to 2 sig figs once again. There's your answer.